Good to see you, Ed. First off, let's start with AJ. His Instagram message. Did it surprise you? It was quite bolshy. It was good to see that.
I love it. I love it. I like to see it. AJ's always a guy that's kind of held his tongue. And I think now as he comes to, the back end of his career, he's almost like, why not? I want this fight. I want people to know that every time I get stopped in the street and people are asking me, when are you going to fight Tyson Fury? When it ain't me. We want the fight. We're ready to go. We're ready to talk about it. But obviously, look, this isn't a goading to Tyson Fury. It's just stating facts. Do you want to make the biggest fight in boxing? And people still say to me, Bridgie, oh, you always say it's the biggest fight in boxing. Tell me a bigger one. Tell me a bigger fight in boxing than Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. It doesn't exist. So I think both guys, having been out for so long, are going to want a comeback fight of some sort. We expect that to happen for Anthony around January or February time. I can't speak on behalf of Tyson Fury, but I think if he was to fight Joshua, he would want to run out first. So that's over to him, if he even fights again. I mean, but I think AJ right now, the good news is AJ is recovered, injury-free, and ready to start training camp, and has got the bit between his teeth to get back in big fights in the heavyweight division. And you saw that, via that post as well. It's quite unlike him, but he's fired up. He's obviously finished the session and goes, I want to get back in the ring. And we believe he's still got a lot to give.
Do you think they're saying from Tyson Fury's side that, okay, he's lost those Usyk fights, that if he lost to Joshua, then that is legacy really damaged, isn't it? Does he think, oh, this is a bit of a risk?
Yeah, I'm not really a kind of legacy damaged kind of guy. I mean, ultimately, you take the fights, and if you're good enough, you win. And if you're not, you don't. So I don't think you should worry about gambling on your legacy. The legacy comes through giving people great fights and fighting anybody. Like, the fact is we probably could have, well, we definitely could have, we maybe should have swerved Usyk. This is AJ, right? He was called as AJ's mandatory. Everyone said to me, everyone said to AJ, don't fight Usyk. He's pound for pound number one. He's unbeatable, blah, 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 blah. I had the conversation with AJ. AJ went, I'm not going to vacate the belt. We want to get undisputed. I've got to beat this guy. Fought him, lost. Everyone said, don't rematch him. You're not going to beat him in a rematch. Rematched him. Just like they said, don't rematch Andy Ruiz as well, straight after getting stopped. But the value of legacy comes from fighting anybody. And that's why, another reason why AJ wants to fight Tyson Fury. I mean, personally, he wants to knock him out. But from a legacy perspective, the legacy is fighting everybody. AJ wants to be remembered as a guy that fought everybody. And if he can fight Tyson Fury, the only guy that he never boxed, really, in his whole era, was Deontay Wilder. And we signed to fight Deontay Wilder. Unfortunately, he got beat by Joe Parker. And then we were supposed to announce that night. So that's really, it's not just fighting and beating Tyson Fury. It's just giving the British public what they've wanted for so long and being the guy that is remembered as the guy that fought everyone in his generation. So, your question about Fury's legacy, if you want to be critical of Fury's CV, it's very easy to do so. But at the same time, he's also a tremendous fighter. And let's find out who is the biggest name and the best Brit of that generation. Now you've got new fighters coming through, but let's find out who is the best. And it really would be, a real shame if Tyson Fury and AJ never fought. I mean, people always say to me, would you have regrets, and the answer is, I don't really have many regrets, but I think we would always kick ourselves that we never saw that fight.
I was going to ask you that, because you've made some incredible fights over the years. But would that, I know it's a long time away, but when you eventually retire, and hopefully for you, that's 20, 30 years time.
You never know.
Well, your dad's still around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Still doing pro tours with the darts. But but would you look back and go, do you know what? I'm gutted that didn't happen.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
it's
Because
for you, you know.
that is a fight that, you know, as I say, it's the biggest fight in boxing, but also it's a fight for Britain that would never be. I mean, you can't even compare anything that we've done so far to that. You know, Froch Groves, AJ Klitschko, Ben Eubank. I mean, but this is just completely different. This shuts down the country. And for me, you know, I also think they're two very different, but just two great fighters, two great personalities, two completely different individuals. And yeah, for me, it's a must.
Do you think Tyson's been a bit quiet lately? Have you thought about it? Because he's usually quite vocal on social
Yeah,
media.
maybe with Tyson, quiet's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, maybe he's. I mean, the good news is, obviously you can see across his social media, he's training. You know, so it looks like he's running most days, which is great. Which, you know, gives you hope that he's still got one eye on. You know, I think people around him feel like he'll return, but you never know.
I was like getting your view on other fights. Fabio Wardley against Joe Parker, one you maybe keep an eye on, maybe for AJ. But how do you see that one? That's an intriguing one.
Yeah, I think it's a huge jump up for Fabio Wardley, who, by the way, you know, deserves a massive amount of credit. I mean, the guys, you know, we all know the story's a bit boring now about the white collar background and no amateur experience, but he has gone through the ranks. You know, and people say he was lucky against Justice Finney. I don't think you can ever be lucky when you knock someone out, but he was getting well beaten and was, what, 4 minutes, 5 minutes away from, you know, losing a lopsided decision. But he carries great power. You know, he knocked out Fraser Clark in a round. This is a different kind of step up against a guy with massive experience and massive form. Um, but Fabio has big cojones, and he will be live in all fights because he's not afraid to let his hands go. I do think, you know, I like Fabio a lot, but I always try and be honest in a lot of these analysis. I do think it's a step too far for him, in the form that Joseph's in, but he's definitely live in the fight. And I've said that before, you know, and he's come through. So um, it's a good fight. Sometimes I don't think this will happen for Joe, but when you've beaten Wilder, you've beaten Zhang, you've beaten Bacoli, and you're sitting there at a shot against Oleksandr Usyk, and then you have to fight Fabio Wardley, sometimes that can take the mojo away a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And it can affect the preparation. I don't think that'll happen with Joe. I think he's in great form. But, you know, it'll be an explosive fight. I don't think it'll go the distance, that's for sure.
Your mate Frank Warren, he's revealed that Daniel Dubois is injured, and
Mm.
he didn't want to take the Parker fight. What's your thoughts on that? Because obviously there was things about Dubois with a party before. There's just some things you hear sometimes.
I think it's a bit soon. I think it's a bit quick, you know, for Dubois. I mean, he's just got chin by Usyk. Um, New trainer, lot of um, a lot of changes to his management, a bit of controversy around the parties and stuff like that. I just think sometimes, I think right now, the Joseph Parker choice for Daniel Dubois would be the worst choice because you see, if you can hang in there with Dubois, you will beat him. That's my opinion, right? And Joseph Parker is the worst possible fight style wise for Dubois. He has a good chin. He can punch a little bit. He's fit. He's strong. He's got a good engine. All of those things are a nightmare for Daniel Dubois. And actually, you know, when Dubois pulled out, 24 hours before the Parker fight previously, and then got the Usyk fight, you know, maybe he would have lost to Parker that night, that weekend, you know. So this next, again, none of my business, but the next step for Daniel Dubois, really important. Because if you get back-to-back defeats, sometimes everything can come crumbling down. So if I was Daniel Dubois, and Frank knows how to, you know, guide his career, but I would be taking a little step down next. And I'll be going in there trying to get the knockout win, look great, new trainer, Tony Sims, you know, and get on a little bit of a run. He's a young man. He's still very, very young in terms of, you know, heavyweight prime.
Before we move on to your guys, like I want to get your view on Oleksandr Usyk. You know, how much does he still want it? Because obviously it's about an injury, but he's very vocal in sort of dancing and having a bit of time off, which he fully deserves. How much do you think he wants it going forward? Because he's
Well, I think
beat.
he's a true competitor. I mean, I don't think he'll ever not want it. I mean, this guy is a great example, great role model to any young fighter. Um, Father Time will get everybody at some point. It clearly hasn't got him yet, but I've said this before. I said this after the Dubois fight, and I got a bit of stick for it. And I don't want to get rid of him, but what a time to retire if you're Oleksandr Usyk. I mean, the guy has literally completed boxing. In the cruiserweight division, he went to everybody's backyard to defeat them as champion or to unify. Then he stepped up to heavyweight, beat Chisora, beat AJ twice, beat Dubois twice, beat Fury twice. He's the undisputed heavyweight world champion. What else is there to do? I mean, does a fight with Joseph Parker motivate you if you're Oleksandr Usyk? Maybe because you want to carry on boxing, but I don't know. I think sometimes when you're talking about that kind of legacy, imagine just kind of packing up and going, and just, looking out over your lake or whatever he's probably got, in his nice mansion, just with every belt from the cruiserweight and heavyweight division, just sitting in your lounge and saying, literally, I completed boxing. I was unbeatable. And, legacy really only comes after the fact. So we will look back on Oleksandr Usyk as a true great. And he is a true great.
And I'm sure like it annoys you so much because he's not one of yours, but you can't not dislike him, can you? You can't dislike the guy.
No, he's great, but you shouldn't dislike Oleksandr Usyk. You should respect him, you should honour him, and we should be thankful that we got someone like him because, like I said, he's a true role model to young fighters.
Ben Eubank 2 is in a couple of months away. That's just going to fly by, isn't it? With how busy you are. How excited are you for that again? Because Conor looks pumped again, doesn't he?
Yeah, so excited. I mean, we've got the press conference coming this week on Wednesday in London, and then it'll all get kicking off again. Just a massive fight. First one of the greatest fights we've ever seen in this country. Now we're back to the scene of the crime at Tottenham Hotspur. Conor is very, very, very confident going into this fight. I mean, there was a few things, number one was the inactivity that he had going into that first fight. And number two was he kind of fought off emotion more than anything in that fight, which I think was a big mistake. And this time, he's just got to be a little bit more clinical in his work. Eubank is getting older. There are miles on the clock. He had a long recovery from that fight. It was a brutal battle. And Conor's very, very confident that he can get him out of there inside the distance. And it's going to be difficult because of the weight, but looking forward to another massive night at Tottenham.
I know you've got to head off quickly, but just a couple of bits of wrapping up. While you're going out, you've got a great fight, haven't you, coming up over the next few days?
Yeah, massive. I mean, for Ireland, when you talk about legacy and making history, this Saturday in Belfast with Lewis Crocker against Paddy Donovan, we have the first ever all-Irish world title fight. Now, to think of the great fighters of the past coming out of, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, none of them, two Irishmen have never fought for a world title. And on Saturday in front of 20,000 at Windsor Park Stadium, this will happen. Belfast local boy Lewis Crocker against Limerick's Paddy Donovan. And more so, we've had some great fights in Belfast with Carl Frampton and Ryan Burnett. But respectfully, they were bantamweights and super bantamweights. This is for the world welterweight title. Right, this is a division synonymous with some of the biggest names in the sport. But more importantly now, with the biggest names in boxing. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Conor Benn. You are going to change your life with victory on Saturday. So, yeah, it's going to be a wild, wild night in Belfast and really looking forward to it.
Ed, thank you so much. Have a safe flight and I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, Bridgie.